list is what determines who matters in this business.
The Green List.
All right, Hembo, we got a green list with you today. Hembo's top 5 individual season achievements in the history of Major League Baseball.
Season achievements I'm defining as your season in its totality, an individual number or numbers that we are pegging to it. So, for example, I did not include Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hit streak. I did not include Johnny Vandermeer's back-to-back no-hitters. We are going with the top 5 individual season achievements, and that's sort of how I chose to define it.
Purely numerically. In other words, Jackie Robinson taking the field for the Brooklyn Dodgers is a bigger achievement than literally anyone has ever had in the history of baseball.
Of course, 100%. So I wanted to make sure that I kept it
numerical,
sort of in between the lines from that perspective and did it exclusively numerically. Let's get this thing started.
Number 5.
Number 5 is Steve Carlton in 1972. That season, Steve Carlton won 27 games on a Phillies team that won 59 games. He accounted for 46% of his team's wins that season, the highest rate in the history of Major League Baseball. We'll never see anything like that ever again.
I'm confused already. I thought you were someone that didn't value individual pitchers' wins and losses.
I most definitely don't anymore, but we have to consider that in 1972, Steve Carlton started 41 games and completed 30 of them. So in that context, the pitcher win is far more important than it is now when you're only accounting for 5 or 6 innings on average.
See, I love one of my favorite pitcher stats is team win-loss in games a person starts. I would assume the on-off splits, in essence, for Steve Carlton would be insane in his favor that year.
There was actually a 2-month span in which the Phillies went 15-0 in his starts and 7-33 in all other games.
And that is the important stat for me.
That's the one.
I outstatted you.
Next.
Number 4.
Number 4 is Ted Williams in 1941. He batted .406, the most recent season in which a batter hit 400, and he, of course, legendarily went 6 for 8 on the season's final day in a doubleheader. And during the span of Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hit streak, that season, DiMaggio batted .408, and Ted Williams batted .412. Ted Williams out-hit Joe DiMaggio during his 56-game hit streak.
I did not realize that. Again, I don't mean to poke holes. I'm just trying to apply your current opinion to past accomplishment. Do you value batting average?
Not anymore.
But your 4th most impressive accomplishment in the history of a season-long achievement numerically in baseball is a batting average.
It is a batting average, but it's a .400 batting average, which has not been achieved since. It was also a season in which his on-base and his slug were just astronomical, but part of this is art. It's not just the science. I don't think batting average much matters, but if you hit .406, especially in that legendary season, to me, I'm taking a sort of historical look at this thing too. So while, for example, Otani's 50 stolen bases is not something that is of extraordinary value, it is of extraordinary significance. So that's number 4. Next.
Number 3.
Number 3 is Bob Gibson in 1968. His ERA that year was 1.12. It was the year of the pitcher, and he, of course, was the pitcher of the year. He threw 13 shutouts that season, which remains a live ball record, and he was so good that he effectively became the catalyst for Major League Baseball to lower the mound from 15 inches to 10 inches. Bob Gibson was so good that they had to change the rules.
Again, same question. Do you value ERA today?
I value ERA today, but not nearly as much as we thought. I personally prefer stats like WHIP, more advanced stats like WAR, but when your ERA is 1.12, it's an extraordinarily low number, and he was so good, again, that Major League Baseball had to turn on its face and say, we need to make it easier to hit. That's how dominant he was.
Your first 3 off of this list, off of the green list here. Steve Carlton in 72 with a 27 wins on a 59-win team. Ted Williams in 41 with a .406 average, and Bob Gibson in 68 with a 1.12 ERA. Again, all of these, I find them to be remarkably interesting because they're all stats that you no longer value, yet you are retroactively assigning credit to how you would have approached it in that moment.
At that time, and that's super important. And that gets me to number 2.
Number 2.
And that's Shohei Otani this season. I'm going to read for you a list of notable players that never hit 50 home runs in a season. Henry Aaron, Albert Pujols, Frank Robinson, Harmon Killebrew, and Reggie Jackson. I'm going to read for you a list of some notable players that never stole 50 bases in a season. Paul Molitor, Derek Jeter, Rod Carew, and Willie Mays. Otani did both in the same season while rehabbing his elbow. You could certainly argue that over the previous 3 seasons, Otani did things that were more unprecedented. But the fact that 50-50 had never been done, and the fact that Shohei Otani capped off his 50-50 season in the extraordinary manner in which he did yesterday, it is a singular achievement in the history of baseball, and that's why I have it number 2 on my list.
Okay, a couple of things on this. Do you believe this is actually the best Otani season he's ever had?
I think it's the 4th best Otani season.
So this year is the 4th best Otani season, yet it's his 2nd best overall in the history of baseball?
Again, I'm contextualizing this in terms of baseball history, in terms of achievement, in terms of significance, in terms of scope. What he did in the previous 3 seasons was remarkable. I'm not even sure he himself can repeat that stuff. But we did see Babe Ruth do it 100 years ago. We've never, ever seen someone go 50-50, and he did it with a week and a half to go in the season.
Why do you think why do you think, this is the 4th best season of his career? Because of lack of pitching?
Yes, because like you said so well in the last segment, if you're actually providing the two-way value that he is, there's no player that could possibly be more valuable than that.
Okay, and now, if I said to you today, you know what, end of regular season, we could project out 9 days. End of regular season, you have to vote for a Major League Baseball most valuable player. Not an NL nor an AL, a Major League Baseball most valuable player. Who would you vote for?
One player.
Yeah.
I'd vote for Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is having a more valuable season than Shohei Otani.
How?
Aaron Judge has been considerably better at the plate than Shohei Otani. Aaron Judge has been something approximating 40% better as a hitter than Otani. It's a considerably higher average, a way higher on base, a way higher slug. The totality of his batting line is considerably better, and Aaron Judge is playing defense in the outfield at a high level. When you consider that what Aaron Judge is doing while playing the outfield, it's remarkable. He's been a considerably more valuable player than Shohei Otani.
You brought up the stat that Ted Williams had a higher batting average than Joe DiMaggio in the same season in which DiMaggio had a 56-game hit streak.
Not the season, during the streak itself.
Okay. Along those lines, Aaron Judge has more ribbies this year than the year he broke the home run record in the American League.
He's having a better year. But 62 is a greater achievement in the scope of baseball history.
Right.
We can decouple those two things. And that gets me to number 1.
Number 1.
The greatest individual season in baseball history using this context is Babe Ruth in 1920. In 1920, Evan, Babe Ruth hit 54 home runs. That season, he became the first player in history to even hit 30 in a season. He hit his 30th home run that season on July the 19th. In 1920, Babe Ruth hit 54 home runs. George Sisler, Tilly Walker, and Cy Williams ranked 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in the majors. They combined for fewer than Babe Ruth did. And lastly, I got to leave you with this.
You have to.
Babe Ruth out-homered every other team in the American League in the year 1920. He accounted for 15% of the home runs. For context, that would have been equivalent to Barry Bonds hitting 432 home runs in 2001. Barry Bonds was, in 2001, hit 73. That's the extent to which he would have dominated the league by the perspective of what Babe Ruth did in 1920.
Hardest one to leave out.
The hardest one for me to leave out was Pedro Martinez, who in 1999
Throwing
and 2000...
Don Zimmer to the ground? You thought that was that big? I don't know about that.
In 1999 and 2000, Pedro Martinez was the greatest pitcher that ever lived, in my opinion. Greater than Sandy Koufax in his prime, greater than Bob Gibson in his prime.
Doc Gooden in 85 or 84, whatever it was?
Doc Gooden, Walter Johnson, Lefty Grove, Phil Necro, Nolan Ryan, you name it. The problem
Anthony
is...
Young?
The problem is there was not an individual number with which to hook it. And that's why I wanted to make sure that I considered value, but I also considered sort of the greater scope of baseball history and the significance to the median fan, you might say.